pals, maybe. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up. I want to present my screen. I moved into a new office, and I'm about a month or so ago, and I'm still kind of messing around with where my monitors should be and what they should be showing. But so I'll find a window that I can use. So on our YouTube, and I'm going to pull this down to my lower screen so I can. This is my screen that I monitor what's going on. To view my channel. All right, so I'm going to go back to StreamYard real quick, and I'm going to share our YouTube channel. All right, so I'm going to go back to StreamYard real quick, and I'm going to share our YouTube channel. All right, so do that. That's a mess. Okay. I want to add to stage. So our YouTube channel is here. This is our YouTube channel. Can you see it? All right. So let me just. Yeah. So you should. So this is the YouTube channel. The main YouTube channel is Steve Franco's REI homepage, and this is our network right here. So if you ever want to go back and look at other things I've shot or review this, it's here on this YouTube channel, Steve Franco REI.
Okay.
So that's where anything we record on StreamYard automatically duplicates over there. So then the next thing you're going to want to do is go to PALS, PA Licensing Service, and log in.
Okay, let me go.
If you need our license number, it's all here. And I'm just going to see if there's any notification. Did you notify them? Yes, you.
No, not yet, because I didn't know the the number, the license number.
Okay, all right. So I'll give you that right now, and that's one of the things I got organized a little better about. Oh, I'm going to approve her.
Okay.
All right, so the broker's license number, and you can write these down, and I can also send them to you. The broker's license number is RB Robert Boyd, real estate broker, 069434. And my personal
RB 069
434.
Yeah. 434. Okay.
And then my personal license number is this RM 424988.
RM 424988.
Yeah, 988. And then I can do
I think it's been licensed of the same type in any other state within the last 5 years. Okay, yep, here we go. All right, broker details. Here we go. License number RB069434, right?
Yep.
There you go. Filled in Gorilla Real Estate LLC, 40 Northview Ave, Harvey's Lake, Pennsylvania, 18618. Email gpghequity@gmail.com.
That email's fine, or steve@goodpeoplegoodhomes.com. They all feed back to me. That's fine.
Do you wish to practice using a nickname for your first name? Will any of your supporting documents be submitted under another name or names? No. Okay. State of jurisdiction, Pennsylvania.
Gotta be PA. I'm not really sure what they mean by that.
Upload document.
Yeah.
What document are they looking for?
If you want to share your screen, then I can try to figure out where you're at. I'm not quite sure.
Let me see. If I share. Let's see. Oops. All right. Let's see. All right. You see my screen?
Let's see.
I'm right here.
Yep, I just put it in there. Yep. So let me blow it up to screen size. Let's see. Hello? Okay, so
Choose. Yeah, I don't know what document they're looking here. Please answer the following questions.
I'm trying to get the screen to be full screen so I can see it all.
Oh, you can't see it?
I can see it, but it's just small. I'm trying to get it to blow up. Just give it a second. It's probably just how fast it's loading on my screen here. Come on. Oh, that's weird. All right, let's do this. It's weird. As soon as I blow it up, it goes away. As soon as I blow up. Wait. Maybe if I go to the YouTube site.
Hours of basic real estate courses. If you hold a territory, letter of good standing. Okay, I have to find that letter of good standing. Where the hell did I have that?
I mean, generally, what they're looking for, as far as documents, is obviously your transcripts from your classes. Sometimes they ask for that. The passing of the state exams.
They don't have that on the back end?
No. I'm thinking they have some. It's been so long since I filled one out. I'm just going through the list of everything that they could want while I'm trying to figure out. Well, let me see what you're trying to show me.
Yeah, I don't.
There we go. Now I'm seeing it. Huh. I still can't tell what document they're looking for.
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand what I don't understand what they want.
What on earth document are they trying for? And this lack of blow up ability is really kind of a pain in the butt.
Let me see.
So yeah, I mean, it's really not, the letter of good standing might be really what they're looking for there.
Yeah, I know.
What?
Yeah, I gotta go find that. I remember there was a lady that sent me something about that.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, just you submit a ticket, they respond pretty quickly. Also, they're actually very good to reach on the phone as well. So you could do it either way.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they're actually surprisingly for a state department, they're actually very helpful.
Okay. You just have to remember where that email is. Okay, so once I find it, I just put it in there, and then.
Yeah. And the other what I did on one of my licenses is I uploaded a blank piece of paper and then I submitted a ticket and said it wanted me to upload something, but it didn't tell me what. What do I do?
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So there's sort of that other option as well.
Where the heck is this? I thought I downloaded it. I gotta find it, Steve.
That's all right. We can kind of go through. We can go through everything else. So once you do that, then we will, and then once you do that and you get your thing, and I've already sent you your $75 invoice. Obviously, pay that whenever. That's but you should have seen that come in from Stripe. And there we go. Our main, so we have a few softwares that you can use, or you're this one you're required to use. Everything else is optional. This is Dotloop. This is which I'll have you on account on there probably first part of the week. And this one is.
Oops.
You all right?
This is so. I'm back.
Okay.
That was weird. All
right. So, yeah. So basically, once you get PALS on board, it'll ask me. I'll approve you. You'll be on board with us. And then we'll get you set up probably first part of the week with Dotloop. Dotloop is our transaction coordination software, and that is pretty much where everything happens. And this is obviously my screen, so you see some of the properties other people have. But there's always this one here, which you should be able to see with the license information. I can't imagine why you need it in the future. Now, if the state even sends you a paper license anymore, I'm not quite clear if they do. I do recommend keeping something, or if they don't, you go into PALS and you can download your license. Maybe one property, I don't know if it was one time or a couple, I had a security guard at a HOA refuse to let me in until the owner came to get me. I had my contract, I had the owner's phone number, I had the address, I had my own license, and I had my business card, but because I wasn't carrying my state license, they're like, we don't believe you're real. So I tell people, have something in your car with your license number in case you ever get hassled. But literally that was one time 10 years ago. So like not huge, but probably good to have somewhere available. Dotloop is where all of the templates and software templates, and we'll go in more detailed tour of this on another visit. But Dotloop is where when you have a transaction and you get something signed, meaning an offer or what, even a consumer notice, then you're going to open a loop and you're going to put the address in and blah 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 blah, and you'll go through and you'll actually create a loop. Which loop is a property, a loop is a deal, and then within that loop, you can add documents. You will do all of your signing through here, except if you do it in person. This does what DocuSign does. This does everything. So you pretty much run your show from here. We have built in all of our different softwares or all of our different documents that we use: leasing documents, listing documents, wholesale documents, whatever. And so everything happens, through here. The cool thing about this software is you can add tasks, you can add people, like you can add title companies, buyer's agents, seller's agents, whoever all, and anything that relates to the transaction goes here. Meaning, if the seller gives you, I don't know, a mortgage document, put it in here. If the seller gives whatever you have goes in here. That way I'm not chasing documents all over hell. You can use the existing templates. If you have something on your hard drive, you can use the browse button. You can even it gives an email address for every property, for every loop. So you can even copy that and just email whatever you have on your computer over. I even recommend not every email, not every text message, but if there's a contentious thing going on, or you think, gee, this might be needed later, of evidence that someone agreed to something, PDF that email or screenshot or whatever and send it into the loop. Email it into that email address or upload it. That way, this is for 3 reasons. This does 3 things for us. One is it gets everything signed, so it's all in here. 2 is it keeps everybody in a communication. Now, this does not replace your job of being in touch with buyer's agents, being in touch with seller's agents, title companies, whatever. This just makes it easier by sharing. By sharing access to this with the Add People button. You can give title people access to title things. Now, be very careful what you share, and we'll do this more in depth. Things that are confidential to you should not be shared. So, but this makes it a lot easier. And the third reason for this is if, God forbid, there's ever a dispute of some kind, everything is here. I go to one place, you go to one place, and everything is here. Now, let me take a step back, is that when you get a prospect, which we can help you with lead, we can help show you leads. We can even, support you. Oh my gosh, so sorry. We can even support you in how to get leads and how to pay for leads and how to do cold calling and whatever. We can walk you through all that, or have it done, or partner up with you on it. But when you start getting somewhere with a buyer or a seller, one of the first things you're going to want to do is a consumer notice. Now, in your classes, you learned that consumer notices must be signed at the first substantive conversation of any real estate conversation, basically. And yes, They should. Absolutely. There's no question that that's what the law says. Reality, no one does that. In reality, I don't know that you can do that. Like, hi, I want to talk about real estate. Well, first sign this piece of paper before we can talk. We do because that's the legal answer, but realistically, no, nobody does it. What I do is when I'm on the phone with people, and there's that verbal consumer notice you learned as well, and I don't do that. I just say, listen, I'm a broker. I'm also a buyer. The right situation. I'm a buyer. I'm a broker, whatever. But I'm always identifying to everyone that I'm a broker, or in your case, that you're an agent. And the other thing I say is I'll say, listen, hi, I'm a broker. I definitely want to talk to you about your property, but I want to let you know, even though I'm a broker, I'm not yet your broker until we sign certain paperwork. So don't tell me your deep, dark secrets. Don't tell me anything super confidential, because I will do my best to keep it confidential, but I'm not required to. So that puts them on notice of two things. That puts them on notice that you know more than they do. And that puts them on notice that you're not confidential to them yet. And then you proceed, and at the right point, you give them the actual consumer notice. At the right point, that's when you actually are moving forward and giving them the consumer notice and the other documents. And we'll walk you through that stuff. But this tool here is a very useful tool for really most of our operational business happens here. This isn't where you do your comps or your evaluating. That's a different tool, but this is probably where everything goes. And the bottom line is that once you get anything signed, anything substantive, you open a loop. That would be one place to put everything. Any other questions you can think of, or else I'll kind of rattle through a few other things.
I signed up for that.
You were somehow out of the room again. Okay, sorry, I didn't see that. So did you hear all that? Any questions? Anything else?
Yeah.
Anyone to ask?
No, I was just saying, like, I'm familiar at some level with dotloop because I've used DocuSign before, so I'm sure it's somewhat similar.
Yeah, it is. And basically we have, okay, so everything you're ever going to want to sign is probably, let me shut this stupid alarm off, is probably already in dotloop, meaning I've already approved it to go in there.
Yeah.
You will probably at some point, someone's going to face you with something and say, hey, here's something you got to sign. Short version is, no, you don't. There are certain circumstances where something outside of one of my attorneys approved, will actually need to get signed. Anything like that, run it by me. Case in point, there's a gentleman who's no longer with our company. He actually was never officially with our company. He was right about where you're at, waiting for the state to approve his license. And I knew he was already talking to sellers. And that's okay. He brought me the seller's contract. I signed it on his behalf because he wasn't yet licensed. Well, okay. Over the weekend, he signed a listing agreement with a friend of his, the property he just put under contract, brokerage firm. And I knew there was a conversation of doing this, but my answer was, great. When I talk to that friend's broker, then we can work out what the scenario is. And he went ahead and signed it, binding the brokerage firm to a listing agreement, which listing agreement is the wrong piece of paper for that tool anyway. And so I immediately fired him. I'm like, no, we're done here. I did. It wasn't that immediate, but very quickly it was time for him to no longer be here, because he gave me all sorts of crap of how come that's wrong. I said, number one, you didn't ask my permission before signing what was presented to you by someone else. Anything goes unusual, you call me. There was a way to do that. I actually ended up doing it with that brokerage firm after he moved on. But it's just a matter of the brokers have to decide how. So if you're presented something from buyer, seller, sign, I got to review it and approve it first. Yeah, basically, so dotloop is like DocuSign on steroids. It's DocuSign with a transaction coordination software. We are also bringing on board a TC. So TC is plays two roles. We're bringing on board, or interviewing now, since we're bringing on board yet, a company to do compliance level TC.
Nice.
We need a company that will review the documents and verify things are good enough and complete enough that it's worth my time in reviewing it. And I don't mean worth my time like you can't call me. I mean like, is this thing ready for me to sign off on?
Right.
The same TC for more money, which you would pay out of your pocket if you wanted, can actually be like your right-hand person, and they can work with you to make sure all the papers are signed, to follow up with buyers, follow up with sellers, get questions answered like that. They're kind of your assistant. I don't require you to use them. That's entirely your choice. When your business grows, you probably will want one. But when I say my TC, I mean as somebody who's just checking over the compliance of the documents. And the last thing on Dotloop is that, or any of it is, until I receive and have approved all the documents related to a transaction, we don't pay out. So like you're supposed to, within 24 or 48 hours, get whatever gets signed into Dotloop. I had an agent come to me. He's like, we closed the deal. Here's the check. And I said, you closed what deal? He's like, well, the deal. I said, okay, where are the files? Oh, I have them. No, not good enough. And he had to wait 2 weeks to get paid. And meanwhile, he's moaning and whining. And I'm like, dude, when I have the documents and I have a chance to review them and I know they're complete and proper, that's when my brokerage firm cuts the check. Because if something's wrong with them, the Harrisburg going to knock on my door. So that's the other reason for Dotloop, is it kind of keeps it all in-house. We also have a software called RSIC, which we're working on. So we have Batch Leads, which is a skip trace comping tool that you have access to as part of your package. So we pay for Batch Leads. We also pay for one called, and I have not used it enough, and I'm going to share it out to a couple to you to help people. I think it's RSIC or RCIC, I forget.
RSIC. Okay.
Yeah, our RCIC systems. Here it is. So RCIC, and this is a software I just signed on to last week and have not played with yet. And RCIC is like everything you can imagine on steroids in terms of skip trace. It's everything from figuring out what deals you want to go after, skip tracing them, finding them, comping them, all the way through execution. Aimed mostly at the wholesalers. But we have several tools like that that we've built or that we have. I have voice practice AIs that are AIs that I built, where basically the system will pretend you talk to the system and talks to you. So you can practice working with buyers, you can practice working with sellers, all that stuff. So we have a bunch of tools, which I don't want to pull out here on because YouTube will publish the passwords and I'll get in trouble. But I've got a bunch of tools that I'll be sharing with you over the next week or so, where how you can find deals, how you can find leads, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, have you thought at all, like, do you want to focus on wholesaling, multifamily, or you just kind of want to get your feet wet and everything, or have you thought about sort of where you want to head?
Yeah, it's I'll be mainly wholesaling.
Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah,
that's which is mostly what I do, and that's also where our cold calling partnerships and so forth. If you want to pay for cold calling, whatever, that's also where a lot of that comes in. My background, just real quick, is I bought my first building with my brother in 1997 when I wasn't even in real estate yet. I was out in Boston doing television stuff and whatever. So that was a warehouse, like done commercial, multifamily, mobile home parks, blah blah blah, all that stuff. So pretty much whatever comes up, we get you through. We also have the ability that you can make money off DSCR, fix and flip, and other kinds of lending. Obviously, Steve, we do a bunch of creative stuff in the sub-2 world. So pretty much whatever you come up with is doable. Now, we do wholesaling. Okay, so you can do wholesaling 2 ways in Pennsylvania. We do them both ways. I don't care. So we have regular assignable wholesale agreements. And this is where the law kicks in. This is probably why you're getting licensed or whatever, is that
Yep.
The whole 1173 compliance thing. So when you sign a purchase contract, assignable purchase contract, you have to give them an 1173 addendum, which has these 5 points on it that you're just closing its wholesale transaction, consumer has the rights for appraisal, blah, blah, blah. They can cancel within 30 days, they get a refund of their payments, whatever. And if you do that assignable type of document, that's when you need the 1173 disclosure. If you do it a different way, and I think this is how Steve is now doing it, and this is certainly how I do it whenever I can, is I use the net listing agreement, which is a listing agreement, just like any other listing agreement in the world. You know, you can use the PAR and NAR agreements and whatever, but this one says instead of being we're going to get 6% of a transaction or whatever, it says anything over a certain dollar amount. And you know, so I have you for 50. I sell that thing for 100. I make 50. Seller agreed to it, and I have a little disclosure form here that tells them what's going on, and then here's that contract. The reason I like this one is, according to my attorney, there is no net 1173 net walkout clause. They can't walk out in 30 days. It's a listing agreement. They can't just wake up and change their minds.
Whoa,
So
that's cool.
I mean, I like that. Now, I will tell you, there are some sellers that see the word listing and they have an absolute freaking fit. So, you know, it's like, okay, do I, in which case I offer to roll back to the other agreement. I don't care. I do care because I don't like the 30-day walkout. I had 2 people walk out, only 2 ever, but I had 2 people walk out in the space of a week because they just woke up they probably got a better offer. They woke up and said, I'm taking my cancellation and just moving on. So, yeah, so basically we have the wholesale documents here. If you join an association of realtors or an MLS, then if you join an association of realtors, then you'll have access to the PAR documents for regular things like listings and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't, okay, so you don't have to join an association unless the association comes and knocks on my door. They come because you're supposed to. But if the association doesn't have anything, I don't care if you ever do. But if you do want to, we are members of Lehigh, Scranton, West Penn, and Erie. So pretty much you could join an association and then you could do regular listings and you could have access to the MLS and all that kind of fun stuff. We're also members of Bright. West Penn and Bright are both MLSs. They're not boards. So without being a member of a PAR, you can, I know you can join West Penn. I don't know if you can join Bright. And that would just be for getting more comping data kind of thing. And so we can, if you want to join a board, let me know. You want to join MLS, let me know. We can get you set up and we can help do what you need to do that stuff. So that's once the state brings you on board, the MLS is, so to be a board member, like if you're just joining, I forget what Bright is. I think Bright's $500 a year, but I think they do require you join a board first. Most boards are going to run you about $1,000 a year to be a member of a board. Yeah. So it's like, all right, is that actually worth? No, it allows you to list. Now, some boards will let you get MLS only access without joining a board, but very few of them. West Penn being, I think, the only one that I can think of. Bright might. I have to double check their rules. They just recently changed. But basically, so it's really one of those things where are you better off being a realtor and having access to that other line of business? Yeah, possibly. But like, I don't think Steve Herring joined. I've actually followed up. Not sure if he did or not. So I joined because I have to. In order to let people join under me, I have to join. So I'm on way too many damn boards. But I don't use it. I can't remember the last thing I listed. Actually, there's one right now that I need to list. And that's the other thing. If you wanted to, as I become more of a non-competing broker, I will be giving out my leads and stuff and whatever. But also, like, if you wanted to, like, I'll be like, hey, you know what? If you want to handle the listing and field the calls on this one, I'll fold you into my transactions. We can certainly have that conversation. Being a realtor is what is meant by joining the board. It's a club. It's a country club. I'm not saying it's not an important country club, but it's not a requirement. And you will sometimes have other agents say, well, if you're not literally, they said it to my wife, if you're not a realtor, you must be a scam artist. No click. If the state passed me and I got my background check, I don't think I'm a scam artist. They also will say, well, the realtor law says there's no such thing as realtor law. Okay. There's the law and there's the realtor thing. I had a local, I sold one of my private buildings through, and I was the agent on one side and the mayor of the town was the agent on the other side. And he didn't like something I did. And he called me up and he's, powerful guy. And he's like, I'm going to, you broke the law. I'm going to take your license. And I call my broker, terrified my broker, like, Steve, first of all, he's got nothing. He's like, what he's accusing you of, if it's even a problem, it's a letter from PAR. He's like, if he were to complain, they're going to send you a letter and say, bad boy, don't do it again. Second of all, the level of bullshit you have to do in order to lose your license is serious. The association can continue for almost anything because they're a country club. They do whatever the hell they want. But he's like, don't worry. So really, the association has a lot of value. There's ethics and whatever there, but it's a question. The important thing to remember with wholesaling is that speed is what matters, meaning they're coming to us and they're making a choice of speed over money, basically.
Right.
That's ultimately why they're choosing it, because if they had the time, because of whatever's going on in their life, they would take the money, whether they just don't want to deal with the realtor crap or whatever. So, and that's really the equation. You got to let them know. I tell all my wholesale and direct buyers, I'm like, look, or sellers are like, look, I don't tell them directly you could make another $50,000 if you went and listed it, but I'll say, you realize that you're moving fast here. You may or may not get the most money. I'm an investor. I have to buy it for less. So you want to give them some indication. You usually want to give them some indication of that, but they're coming here for that. And that's fine. As long as there's no violation, as long as they're aware of the decision they're making. How deep you want to go in that's fine. But you're like, listen, I'm moving fast for you. What never changes, no matter what, is the disclosure law. So when I sign up a wholesale or an agent, I don't care, or a wholesaler or a listing, I don't care. My first package is the consumer notice, the full consumer notice, and the sales agreement. And yes, this consumer notice goes out. It has nothing to do with wholesaling. There is not a thing in here that has anything to do with wholesaling. However, the state requires it. And the state requires this is the one document we never change. We don't change the words on it. We can write a letter on it. We just sign it. Now, if they refuse to sign the CN, you're still able to work with them. You just write on it, refuse to sign, date it, boom, put it in the system. You don't want to see that happen too often, but this has to go. Everybody has to sign this. The other one that then in that first package, they're getting this, and they're getting a sales agreement, and they're getting a They're getting this, they're getting a sales agreement, and they're getting a seller's estimate of closing costs. Seller's estimate of closing costs is just what it sounds like. We're estimating what they're going to get. So we're saying sales price, pay off existing liens, transfer taxes, title insurance, blah, 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 boom. So I'm buying the whatever. What?
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. I just sold that property recently, and I got one of those.
Okay. All right, cool. So basically, that and I just have that tagged on the bottom here. So that's the first one. Then when they go and they've signed that, then you stick them with the disclosures. And basically, here's the disclosures. I already have the initials on the lead one because if they've not had you ask them, have you had your house tested for lead? Nope. All right, then we know these are the answers. You have no knowledge, you have no records. We all know an old house had lead. Emotionally, we know it. Scientifically, we don't. And then here's your state disclosure. If they are in a state, an e-state, as in they are executor or whatever, they can exempt themselves. But normally, I tell people, you can exempt yourself, but just answer the damn questions. Tell the buyer whatever you think you would want to know. Materially, material fact is anything that the buyer or seller might consider they might have relied on. It's pretty vague. So pretty much they got to be honest and tell everything. And yes, if they're hiding something and you know it, like you go in the basement, there's a crack in the foundation or a piece missing from the foundation, and they don't mention it here, you have to. No, you're not. No, you're not a real estate. You are a real estate expert, but you're not a contractor. But yeah, if you see a serious crack in the foundation, I would err on the side of caution, and then put on here or somewhere. I would put on here, agent notice crack in foundation.
So what is that, like is it like a sub comment to theirs or like a sub?
Yeah, I mean that you can do it here, and then I make them initial it, or you can simply put it in the listing and say, something like not sure if it's noted in the seller's disclosure, but agent saw this. Now you can be careful. There's a balance between, and when you have a question, you call me. Okay.
Saying too much.
What?
Like disclosing too much, and like there's something that's gonna go against you, or what you have to disclose, type of thing.
What?
Like just not giving away so much, but at the same time you have to also disclose certain things.
And really, it doesn't come. It can't come down to, is it going to hurt you, or is the seller going to be mad? It comes down to, are you sure it's fact? For example, and the line is not clear, but I'll give a couple examples. So you see a crack in the foundation or a piece missing from the foundation. Yeah, you're going to mention that. You're going to put it here, or you're going to put it in your listing, and you're going to PDF your listing and include you. You want to know. You want to make sure that everyone knows it. But you're not going to say. You're walking through a basement, you see some stuff growing on the ceiling 6 feet above you. You're not going to say mold present. You're going to say substance growing on the ceiling.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So, hey, folks, there's something to look at. And depending on the growth, that's kind of a variable one. You see, you're walking through a house and there's white stuff wrapped around the pipes. Somebody's going to say to you, is that asbestos? You're never going to say yes. Emotionally, we know it is. There was not a white corrugated product that I'm aware of that was white to the core, that was wrapped around pipes, that was not asbestos. But my answer is, it's a white corrugated product wrapped around pipes. Sometimes that was asbestos. If you're curious, you need to hire. Because we're also not experts. We know emotionally. That's why also I never say no. And of course, very rarely do I have to correct the seller, because I really don't have to unless I think they're lying or they're really missing something. But all I'm saying is it's a judgment call. for the most part, you don't have to do it. But, if someone says, well, is all the knob and tube removed from the house? My answer is, I've not seen knob and tube walking around the house. I'm not swearing to whether it's all removed. Because remember, we're always covering our asses. But anyway, so the disclosures go next. They aren't that scary. The PAR disclosure is a lot more scary looking. And then you'll do your promotion for the property and everything else. When you're wholesaling, and yes, the licensing makes this more gray, you're effectively reselling your contract on the property, but because you're licensed, you're able to market it as property. But so we will work on how to phrase them. It's really not that hard. For the most part, talk about the property. Say, hey, we have available this house, blah blah blah. Fine. We have a buyer's list. We can help you with certain deals. Also, we have a Go High Level account. The company does, and you're welcome to use it. You're also welcome to get your own sub account if you want a private one. You will be, you can put your leads in here. You can use it as your Go High Level. Just realize that it's a shared account everyone gets to use. So, I don't think anyone else is actually using it, but it is the shared account. But we do have a full Go High Level account here, and it's a full CRM and whatever. So you can run your entire business through Go High Level. And I was checking on my thing. Oh, okay, good. And then we'll cover the rest of the tools. But basically, that's it. We will. The reality of wholesaling and real estate in general right now is that there's a lot of competition for deals. There's many fish. There's many fisher people more than there are fish right now. So in eastern and northeastern Pennsylvania, elsewhere different. So just beware that probably if they're talking to you, they're talking to several other people. Do you have any questions about wholesaling? I can kind of walk you through that a little bit. But basically, your job in wholesaling is to find people who haven't advertised yet. However, because you're licensed, you can go after anybody. The rule I use to tell my JV wholesale kids is if it's online, if it's on the market, if it's on Facebook, if it's got a for sale by owner sign on it, whatever, don't bother, because the world's already seen it. And if all you can do is get a wholesale markup, there's really nowhere to go, because if they've advertised it for 50, you're going to have to bring it back under 50 in order to be able to make any money, because the world's already seen it at 50.
Right.
Because you're licensed, you can go to that guy who's advertised and say, would you like to list? That's a different conversation. So then in the listing, you're switching to making a percentage. So with that, I guess that's pretty much all I normally cover in the orientation. I don't know if there's something else you wanted to ask or whatever. We'll cover more in other meetings, but.
No. Okay. Yeah. I'm excited. Everything that you're saying, I'm excited for all the support that you have. Steve, other Steve, and you, just hearing what you're talking about. Like, I know you have a lot of experience, and so I'm excited to learn from you and all the resources that you have in regards to some of those, like the batch leads and even the TC that you're going to be bringing on will definitely. Like, those were things I was going to invest in. I actually have a batch leads account myself right now, so I guess I could even just cancel that and just utilize the one that you guys have.
Yeah, I'm and oddly enough, batch leads, because one of my other agents is an IT guy, and I told him how I share my batch leads account. And they give you 8 passwords and whatever. Believing very few people are using it on a regular basis. And he's like, oh, I hate that. That's a violation of terms of service. So I actually call it batch leads. Because normally, I call it batch leads because I knew I had 8 passwords, but I'm like, all right, well, what if I have, he wanted his own dedicated password, which means I then only have 7 to share. And I'm like, well, mathematically, that's going to be expensive for me to keep going. I called Bashley. They're like, we don't care. He's like, for 8 seats, you have 8 memberships. He's like, what we do, he's like, we throttle bandwidth. So each account is allowed this kind of bandwidth. And if you give it out to 100 people, they're going to notice it's damn slow, kind of thing. They were really easy. And this RCIC company, I am fairly convinced that we're going to be working out a company-wide deal with them as well. And they are like Bashley's on steroids. They do like they even have AIs that'll actually tell you what to offer. Which I've spent the last few months trying to build some AIs, and I was doing okay with it. And then I came across their software, and I'm like, well, shit, I got nothing. There's no point in me continuing building because it's just, yeah. Now, a couple things that I wanted to mention. The reason I brought this one up just to finish is this one almost bit me. So my former business partner, who's gone on to other stuff now, went to this house first. And it's an estate sale. It's a great little ranch. I mean, we offered a woman $50,000 on it, sight unseen, basically, because it's a ranch in Pittston. What he didn't notice when he was there, he's like, it's an oil heat house. Never mentioning to me that he didn't know where the oil tank was. And he missed it, fine, whatever. It was buried oil tank. Underground oil tanks are a complicated issue. So if you see an oil house and you don't see oil tanks, we need to find out where the tanks are. Because obviously underground, you learned about the leaking underground storage tanks, the lust in the course. So it's not don't do it. I'm making a huge wholesale markup on this property. It's not don't do it. It's just that's another question to ask. And that's where you'll learn as you walk through property, and like you'll learn a lot of stuff. And I don't mind. So my job as your broker is to be your mentor and to be there and kind of guide you and stuff, up to and including, am I going to drive to every house with you? Probably not, unless you want to start working in your commissions of your side of it. But if you're at a house, I mean, first of all, do I mind doing that a couple times? No. But if you're at a house and you're like, hey, Steve, let me put this thing on FaceTime and let's do a video walkthrough and I'll show you what to look for, that's not a problem. The other thing is that basically the important thing with that mentorship thing is like when you're calling sellers, I'll jump on your first couple seller calls with you. I'll jump on your first couple buyer calls with you, until you kind of hear it and you got your own pattern down. Anything like that. That's also, I do 3 trainings a week, usually Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 11:30. I'm here talking about something. Honestly, very few people show up, so I kind of just do whatever topic I'm thinking of, I think is important that day.
I'll show up. I'll show up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're getting as part of your membership here, free membership to my Asset Mastermind education, which I'm launching, which is basically $300 to $800 a year, and I'm online three times a week or whatever. And the important thing is that I'm your first call when you're not sure what's going on.
Yeah.
If you're all outside of anything, you call me, because otherwise, by the time I called my first broker, I usually dug myself a deep hole.
Yeah. Right.
It just if like my example, and then I'll let you go, is I had a $3 million portfolio under, I had both sides of it. I had the buyer and seller, standard listing. The first buyer and the seller did not come to terms over, what do you call it? The inspection negotiation. So I thought when we failed to meet those timelines, the 5-day timeline in the contract, that it was over. I went and signed up another buyer. Yeah, that's not what it meant. That's not what the contract says. So I ended up with 2 buyers on the same property.
Oh, geez.
And I called my broker, and luckily the first buyer kind of held to some things the seller wasn't okay with, yada yada yada. I got away with it, but my broker's like, yeah, next time when you think you're terminating based on something, he said, first of all, read the contract. Second of all, even if you read the contract, call me. He's like, let's see these problems ahead of time rather than seeing them, when they're already on top of us. Same thing with working in other states. Okay,
I remember you were telling me about this.
Yeah, so just anything unusual, call me.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
But that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
Makes sense. Man,
All right,
I'm
cool.
excited. I'm happy to be the part of the brokerage, brother, and I'm excited to learn a lot.
Welcome aboard. I'm glad you're on board, and and pretty much you should have already seen Stripe.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep.
You saw that, so you can take care of that. I just want to make sure it got through because I'm not that good with Stripe. Sometimes I screw it up. So all right, yeah, I guess that's it. 4 to 4:30 tomorrow. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, sorry, I thought I had a 3 o'clock, but they did move it. Okay, cool. All right, yeah, so that's cool. Any questions, whatever? Let me cover one last thing. Marketing materials. I can give you business card templates, and you can print them. I can give you sign templates. You can print them. I'm actually mailing a sign out to one of my agents in Pittsburgh only because he hasn't gotten his printed yet. Coin toss whether it'll still help because it'll still take a week to get there. So, I've got some here you can share. We do have, within Go High Level, we have social media connections. But so here's what the state requires or calls for on if you're using your own design for business cards or flyers or anything like that. It's called equal prominence, which means that, and this goes for your header of your Facebook page, this goes for your anything, bottom of every listing, every post you make. The point is, when you're doing real estate stuff, the state wants everyone to be able to reach me as well, and as well as important. I don't want everybody to be able to reach me. This isn't call Steve and Steve relays it over to you. No. This is you putting your name and number and email first, my name and my Gorilla Real Estate, not me personally, Gorilla Real Estate, and our 798-7051 number second. And that's so business cards and all of your designs should be run by me to approve. I'll send you our designs. That's fine. You can use ours, whatever. And the other thing you need is the equal housing logo, a little house with the equal sign inside the house. That has to be on everything. And let me just pull that up real quick. Equal housing logo. Okay, fine.
So my business cards that I have that I made for my business, I can't use because they don't have the thing underneath it.
So basically, okay. So what the state? Okay, so now that you're licensed, if you register your business as a qualified association, that focuses on I'm able to pay your business, and technically, the broker answer should be you need to have cards that say your name, your phone number, broker's name, brokerage phone number. If you already have pre-existing materials, go ahead and use it and run it out. Probably what I would consider doing is on the back of your business card, just write agent of Gorilla Real Estate, 570-798-7051. What the state wants, their point of what they're trying to accomplish, I understand. And this way predates wholesale, but they want to make sure that if a customer, client, public, blah, 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 wants to reach the brokerage, whether they can't reach you, you're not calling back, whether they're mad at you, they don't want to deal with you anymore, whether they just want to know if this is legit.
Yeah.
You're supposed to make it easy for them to identify, hey, I'm an agent with this company. And I went through hell when I was at EXP for a very short period of time. I was not set up to be an EXP agent. But I wanted to design my own cards. And I had their number and my number, same font size, same color, same contrast. And that wasn't enough for the EXP broker. He didn't feel that met the equally prominent thing. So we went around the tree because the state doesn't define that. I'm much simpler. I don't care what you have out there as far as marketing. Okay. I'm not going to be here, but This is what the law requires. The law requires on your header, and if you go to my Facebook, I'm actually 2 names ago on Guerrilla Real Estate. I actually have my old broker name up top, on top of my header for whatever stupid reason. I still do. I just never changed it. But the state wants is they want that person to be able to go past you and get to me as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So it says GP Digital Realty. So can you still use your stuff? Yeah. Now here's the other part of under the license, the qualified association, is that business that the QA isn't supposed to be used for transacting real estate. Now I directly asked this question of the commission and of PAR hotline, although they don't like answering wholesale questions. What about situations like yours where you've already got a business that you've been building a brand for? Well, we run, and they didn't have a good answer. Basically, it came down to, well, technically it is a violation. Practically, is anyone going to care? Probably not. And here's my example for that. Hunting for Homes. This is the state registered entity. This is one of my sites. I put licensed broker Guerrilla Real Estate LLC. I didn't even go with that whole phone number crap. And this is my We Buy Houses. This is my We Buy Houses page. And so I'm not worried. And I have Hunting for Homes cards. I have Hunting for Homes t-shirts. I don't think anyone really. I don't think it becomes a practical issue. But at the same time, if you want to be extra safe, just write on the back of your card, agent of Guerrilla Real Estate, 570-798-7051.
Yeah.
Like, and as the EXP broker said to me, because technically your home voicemail, as stupid as that sounds, is supposed to say, "Hi, I'm an agent of blah, blah." And what EXP's attorney or legal compliance department told me is the state will never make a primary case of your voicemail didn't carry, your Facebook didn't carry. They're never going to come hunting for that. Where that little stuff pops up is if they think you were trying to mislead the public. This then becomes other examples of it. Yeah. So realistically, I wouldn't stress. I mean, my former business partner, Ryan, who's one of our agents, we decided we didn't need to wholesale together anymore. He's still running with We Buy Houses, Pennsylvania. That's how he's always run. We've never put Guerrilla on We Buy Houses in 6 years of doing it. Because as soon as they talk to us, we identify.
Right.
So like the technical broker answer is, yeah, your business cards are all crap now. The reality is I don't care if you reprint them and keep using them forever. But that brings back, and I hate to drag it up, but that brings back one other thing is, and I'll show it to you in, I use, so Sellwise, 2 of my agents are with a franchise called Sellwise, and that's why they have their own folder for their documents, but this is I think this is the one where it's at. If not, I'll explain it. So buyer, like if you're advertising as, your company, you can put that company as the buyer on the form and you're the agent. So buyer and agent, are, they both are you, but they are, you may be buying it in the name of an entity. So I forget, I guess this isn't the sheet, but one of the sheets that says blank of Guerrilla Real Estate buying as blank. So Drew of Guerrilla Real Estate buying as Drew Property, Sellwise Properties, whatever her company is. So
yeah.
So it's, and the 1173 is worded so horribly it's not clear if that's legit or not. I have broker friends who require the brokerage to be put down as the buyer. I have broker friends who say it has to be the agent's private name. The state hasn't made it clear. My opinion is, as long as we're being non-deceptive, the worst thing the state will do is come in and say, yeah, idiot, this is what we meant you to do. Like, as long as we're clearly not trying to hide anything, I'm fine with it, pretty much. And there's no clarity about.
So what's the standard? So what would you say is the standard that we should just follow?
I mean, for me, I put in my entity here, represent, and then owned by S. Franco broker or something like that. Or I put in my entity here, and I'm not the most consistent person, and I will. That's why we have 3 sections down here. Get to the bottom here where the signatures are. Seller, and also seller, buyer, and agent. But as long as you're identifying that, hey, what you don't want to make it look like is that a licensed agent, you want to make sure it's clear that the wholesaler is a licensed agent. So my entity owned by broker Steve Franco is usually how I'll write something up. That way it's quite clear, because the law says wholesale can be done by licensees. It's not quite clear
how you're supposed to write that.
Yeah, so my entity owned by broker S. Franco.
So how would I write it then?
So basically, your entity owned by agent, blank.
Oh, agent. Okay.
Yeah, and
I see.
And where that goes, like you could just put my entity, and down bottom, down bottom, it's like licensee name, licensee relation. My attorney's actually revising something, even though she's guessing, and she fully admits she's guessing because there is no case law. But basically, she's taking my contracts and she's putting at the bottom, buyer controlled by, licensed agent name, licensed agent brokers. That's all we're doing. We're just adding that to the bottom, just so there's a clear line of defense. Now, I don't think that even if you didn't do it, I don't think there's an unclear line of defense, because once they call, if something were to get complained about, it goes to the state, and the state never says the agency or the brokerage has to be named on the contract. So the state has no guidance. At the end of the day, this becomes a thing where if we're doing it reasonably directly, I mean, even if you don't name the brokerage on your sales agreement, which I do need to see your sales agreement, or you have to use mine. I have to prove anything going out. But like, you signed a sales agreement. You are a licensed agent with Gorilla. You immediately put that sales agreement into the .loop system for Gorilla. How is anyone claiming that there's a lack of clarity?
Right.
But to be safe, my attorney is going through all of our documents, and she's actually putting on the headers as well. I forgot that. She's putting Gorilla Real Estate and all my crap up here.
Oh, on the okay.
Right up top, and represented by agent blank. So she's adding that in as well, which kind of moots a lot of what I just said, but at the same time, the practice is we have to be transparent.
Yeah.
And we have to be, whatever. And the last thing is that as a net listing or a wholesale, whatever, you're effectively a dual agent. And the important thing to remember about dual agency, okay, so first of all, it's gray area whether you're their fiduciary. The state did a horrible job with this law. There was so much gray area, it's not even funny. But I still treat everyone as my fiduciary anyway. I keep them confidential, blah, 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 blah. I will represent buyers and sellers. I have no problem dual agencying the crap out of everything. But I literally had it actually in this house that Steve ended up, it's his client, it's the buyer, that little brick one. Steve's guy and one of my guys were neck and neck on offers. And so I did one round of highest and best. And both of them asked me the same thing. Well, what number do I have to do to get it? I said, there's no way you'll ever get me to reveal that. First of all, it's stupid for me. But second of all, I've got confidentiality somewhere. I've got confidentiality for myself. I've got confidentiality for Steve and his buyer. I've got confidentiality for my buyer. So there's no way I'm sharing anything that might possibly be considered confidential. I think at the end of it, when I was going back out for highest and best, I think I said to them both something like, well, the number is going to have a good strong 6 in front of it. So I told them they had to be in the 60,000 range. And somebody said to me, well, is that 6'1", 6'9"? I said, that's all I'm going to give you. I'm not giving you a damn. I'm not sure I should go that far. So we treat everything as confidential, even though we're not necessarily their fiduciary, because it's really kind of not clear. It's almost implied agency world at that point. And that's why our documents do say something here that we're working for our own interest. But basically, all of the stuff that we were warned to be careful of, confidentiality, redlining, steering, all that doesn't go away in wholesale. So, someone brings up, well, what's the racial mix of the neighborhood? You say, why don't you just come on down and take a look? We have to be as careful, and especially as careful because we're also acting on our own behalf. In that scenario, at the price the house went to, Steve and I had this conversation because by it going to Steve's buyer, I actually lost whatever Steve's markup was on that house because the two buyers were exactly the same number. So I took myself out of it. I made the highest and best be the top line number, not saying, gee, Steve Franco would make less if I went with Steve Herring's buyer. But that's all the more reason to be a lot more careful about things because we have our own best interest, plus we have that of the seller somewhere in the mix. So it's a matter of just being very cautious, very direct, and always facing every decision, not just on what the law says, but on if you're facing a judge and the judge decides you were wrong, is it, oops, I screwed up, I'm sorry, wrong? Or is the judge looking at you and saying, no, you didn't screw up, you planned deception? And now it went from a little slap on the wrist to, do we have fraud? Do we have misrepresentation? Right. So it all comes back to just doing things ethically and doing things, carefully and ethically, and always being able to stand up and say, I might have made the wrong choice, but I made it for the right reason. That's why I don't do, and this is my personal, this is not the law. When I have to do a highest and best round, I do one. I don't do give me your highest and best, and then an hour later, well, I need a higher and best. I do one. And in fact, on Steve's property, it came down to literally everyone's highest and best was the exact same number. And I avoided, was almost the exact same number. It was literally within $1, which most other agents would have gone for another highest and best round. And I didn't. I'm like, is that to both parties? I'm like, give me your absolute top. Because I don't want to be, it's a waste of my time, but I also don't think it's fair. You gave me your top and now I'm asking you to go up again. But I'm doing it to be as careful as possible. That, nobody can ever come, and nobody probably would, but nobody can ever come back and accuse us of doing something, especially because we're working in our own best interest also. And yes, they can accuse, and Harrisburg will investigate, but we want to be as clean as possible. So anyway, that's it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and and that's and obviously we'll go through this over time. I don't the one last, and I promise the last thing. So if there's a deal, he's not even licensed yet, but he's going to be soon. He's waiting for his final test. One of my agents caught a mobile home park in Oklahoma, which is one of the reasons why we were very careful out of state, because that was a bad idea. And I told him, I said, look, you're paying more than just the gorilla load on this one. I said, I'm going to have to be involved with you 50-50 on that deal, or I'm going to recommend or whatever. And he's like, why? I said, because you're going from barely being trained to trying to do a mobile home park. And that's a whole kettle of fish that's much more complicated.
You're not even gonna probably be able to close that thing.
Yeah. So I said to him, I said, if you want to try it alone, good luck. I'm going to go in the bomb shelter and hide because something's going to go wrong. But I said to him, I said, listen, I said, why don't we 50-50 this one? And I said, you can say no to me, but realistically, here's why I think you're in over your head. And whatever. So always that's an option if you're like, hey, I think I'm in over my head, or I say to you, hey, I think you're in over your head, or for whatever reason it makes sense. But I will never stick that on. I get a long way of saying I will never stick that on the back end. It'll never be, because what happened with me at EXP, and I never understood it. They could always explain if I never understood it. Was I'm supposed to be $85 a month and then whatever per closing. And it seemed like when the papers always came out, they always took more every month, and they always took more at closing. I'm not going to do that. You're paying $75 a month, $800, then that's what you're going to see. If for some reason I think, gee, we should talk about some other number, then we'll talk about it before it happens. I'm not going to just come in there and snag it. Or if you come to me and say, hey, listen, this one's, I think I'm, I don't think I'm ready to fly on my own on this one. All right, great. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about what whatever. That's it. That's all I got.
Okay.
All right.
Appreciate it, my friend. Thank you so much. I will let me put this in, and then I guess I'll get some feedback from you as to.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thank you. Have a good day. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.